everybody. This is going to be my second video. I'm sorry if I sound horrible. I have really bad allergies. Well, kind of bad allergies right now. Um, so if I'm sniffling a little bit and just in general being gross, don't mind me. Uh, just got horrible allergies. So, I haven't decided on what I'm going to name this episode yet, but we're going to be going over player movement without a character controller, and we're going to be going over the LookAt function and the MoveTo function, which are functions that exist inside of Unity that they give you to help you out, and they're pretty nice. I think I'm just going to jump right into it. So, what we got here is I made a little empty scene, right? I'm going to move this directional light up, actually, so that it's out of our way. And you see here we just got a cube, right? We're not worrying about graphics too much right now. This cube is the player. We're going to just go ahead and say that this cube is the player. So, what you want to do when you start out, once you make your little scene or whatever, you're gonna want to add some inputs because they don't have the W, A, S, and D buttons that people would normally use for movements in a PC game assigned automatically. So we have to go ahead and add some input buttons. So go ahead, go to Edit, and you go into Project Settings. You see this input thing? We want to click that. Go ahead and click that, and then you see this thing here. It says axes this is obviously a list of axes of weapons. No, this is axes as in plane of axis. I don't know. If you don't really do math, then you probably don't know much about axes. But anyway, so we have a list of all the default buttons, right? We got jump, we got fire, see how it says joystick button 2, jump is joystick button 3, you know, all this good stuff. Spacebar for you know, people who are using computer. But basically this number up here is how many of these that we have. So we have 15 right now. We want to go ahead and change that number to 19. We want to add 4. And they're all going to be jumps. We're just going to be jumping everywhere. So we want to change this up to jump to... This is the name, by the way, as it says right here. See, it says name. I don't know why I was pointing at the screen. You can't see that. W, right? We want to name it W just so that we know it's W. And the positive button is the button that you'll be pressing. Don't worry about negative button or alt positive or alt negative or anything like that. Just positive button. That's all you need to worry about right now. Lowercase w is the name of the button. Like, Unity has names for the buttons that it assigns. So no matter what you call it up here, Unity wants to know its name for the positive button. So we're going to call it uppercase W. Just, I don't know why. Just because. And we're going to give Unity the lowercase w, which is what they in the system know the W key as. And we're going to do the same thing for A. Sorry, I'm gross today. S, and D. Right? There we go. We got our movement buttons implemented right now. See, WASD. Alright? Now we're just wanting to go ahead and get out of that right now. And we are going to make a script. We're going to make a C# script. And we're going to call it movement. Or, I mean, you can... Oh, hold on. Well, don't mind that. Gotta edit that out. That was my alarm. Speaking of which, I should probably turn off my alarms. Sorry, I woke up earlier than normal today. Okay. All fixed. All fixed. No problems here. All professional. That's what I am. Okay. So start out, get out of here, other thing. So we got our blank, whatever. I'm just gonna go ahead and change this. I'm gonna try to explain this as best I can. It is kind of abstract-ish, in terms that like if you haven't done any coding before, you probably haven't come across any like logic like this in your everyday life. But I'm gonna try to explain it. I'm gonna try to go over this. So we're gonna do public, and we just want move speed. We just want to make a. Oops, sorry. We gotta name it. We want to float, and then we're gonna name it move speed, right? And this is going to be how fast the player is moving. So up here, we just want to do move speed equals 2.0 f. The reason we're doing f is because it's a float. Whenever you do a float and you set a float as a number, you have to put f after it. I don't know why. I didn't come up with that, but it's something you gotta do. And sometimes I forget to do that. And I'm sitting there for 2 hours trying to figure out what I did wrong. And it was just that I forgot to put the little lowercase f after it. So keep that in mind when you do this. Wonderful. Okay, so we are going to make an if statement, right? And we are going to do the why isn't it? Okay. Get button. Oh wait, I'm an idiot. You gotta do input, right? Then dot get button, not get button up or get button down. We want to do get button. So get button up is when you lift your finger off a key. Get button down is when you press it down. We want to get the constant, like when you're holding down the key. So we want to do get button, and then we want to do parentheses, and inside the parentheses, we want to do what button we want. So we're going to do W first, right? That's forward. Yeah, that's forward. Okay. I'm together. I got this, guys. Don't worry. Alright. So, now that we've got our input set up, we want to go ahead and just start making it so that he moves forward, because that's what the W key is for. So, transform dot position. The reason we're doing this is because we want to change the player's position based on our pressing of the W key. And go ahead and do an open parentheses, and we're going to this. I'm going to try to explain this as we do it. So we want the transform.position to equal transform.position plus vector 3 dot forward. And vector 3 dot forward is a handy little shortcut that Unity gives us that lets us determine the direction of forward to the object. And forward, I'm going to go into Unity really fast here. Forward is always the blue one, right? If we look at up here, it says local. We can switch it to local and global, right? Sometimes it's different. Here it's the same. All the better, really. Less confusing. So that blue thing right there, the blue axis, the Z axis, that is always pointing forward, right? So the way it points, that's the positive direction, and the way it points away from, that's the negative direction, right? And so how directions work in Unity is that there are 3 directions. There's forward, up, and left, okay? And if there is if you want to do like right or down or backwards, then you have to do the negative versions of those 3. Which I guess it's, you know, it's probably easier for them to do. So once we do, I'll go over it again in a little bit. I want to finish this line right now though. So we do transform.position plus vector 3 dot forward, which gives us the forward direction, and then we want to multiply that by move speed. I don't know why it's not completing there. Right? So what that does is it gets the direction, and every time we go through the update and the W key is getting pressed, it's multiplying the forward direction by... Actually, 2 is a little much. I think 2 is a lot. So let's change this to 0.2, right? So every time you do that, it's multiplying it by 0.2 and sending us forward 0.2 units, essentially. Some people do time.delta time for this, but I just didn't want to go over that. I'll go over that in another video, I promise. That might even be the next one, where I go over time stuff, the stuff that you can do with time. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple, like this. You know, we move at a fine speed like that. So, cool thing about if statements, you can add an else if, which is essentially like an if statement in your if statement. So you're essentially going through a list, like, does it do this? No? Well, does it do this? No? Oh, okay, well, does it do this? And then you just kind of go through that whole list. That's what we're doing right now. We're making that list. So we want to do another input dot get. I don't know if that was... That to me, that didn't sound very good, that explanation. But I'm just going to go ahead and say that that was okay. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I am the master of explaining things, and that was horrible. Oh no! Why would it do that? Why would you do that, MonoDevelop? Okay, so we are going. What we're doing right now is actually we want to do S, just so I can go over this one concept with you. So we're basically taking this line, so you just want to copy paste that, you know, just because why make it harder on yourself? So, S is backwards, right? So, because there is no vector3 dot backwards, we have to do negative vector3 dot forward, and that will send us in the opposite direction. All right? That was actually easier to explain than I thought it would be. We're going to do another else if. Input dot get button. Oops. All right, and we're going to do A on this one. Sorry, I can't think today. Let's go blame everything on the allergies. On the allergies. Okay, so take this. Right. A would be right. No, left. A is left. So what we want to do is we want to do vector3 dot left. There we go. That was easy. You did it, guys. And you know what? I'm just going to copy this whole thing. And we're going to change this to D. And we're going to change this to negative left. All right, we did it. I think that's it. And then we're just going to do it. I don't even know if we should do an else. I don't think we need to. I'm just going to do it to be neat. No, I won't. Okay. So, now that we have this assigned, if we apply the movement... Oops, I opened it again, I think. If we apply the movement script to this block, get out of here. What we can do is then we'll play the game. Don't worry about this screen. We're looking up here. Looking at the top one. You see, you can move around. When you push all the buttons down at the same time, you get these kind of wonky situations. But, you know, basic movement. That's all we really want right now. If you want, like, diagonal things, stuff like that, I'll go over that another time, I promise. But I've got a whole nother thing to do. And I honestly, off the top of my head, I can't remember how I did movement. Like, diagonal movement last time I did it. So I'll look into that, and I'll go over it. I'll probably tack that onto the time video. I promise. So now that we're moving, we want... You know what? We're just going to go ahead and add a camera. we just don't want to be in the dark here the whole time. Oh, I thought that was much closer than it was. Yeah, one thing you'll notice is that perspective is weird in this. So, yeah, actually, we're just going to go ahead and set this to the same position as the object and move from there. Yeah, that's good enough. Let's say that's good enough. Ooh. We're going to tilt it. Up, down, and then we're just going to go ahead and add the camera. So we had the camera out here, right? We have the cube and the camera. What we want to do is just drag the camera over to the cube. Drag the camera over to the cube, and that, okay, I get it. So once you drag the camera over the cube, the camera becomes the child of the cube, which means it's going to follow the cube no matter what, which is both helpful and can be kind of annoying sometimes. Don't worry, I'm sure it will come up later. So now we can see in the thing, we move around and we can follow him, right? Pretty easy. Not too difficult. Right? Right. Right, silent audience. Okay. Now that we've done that, we want to make another cube. Create other cube. What are you doing? Why are you all the way up here? Why are you doing that to me? 0, 0, 0. Okay. So we're making another cube here. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a little indicator on it on its forward position. I wonder if there's there's probably an easy way to do this, but I don't know about it. Okay, so I'm just going to put this, oops, whoa, okay. R switches to scale mode, thin it up a bit. Alright, there we go, look at that, beautiful already. And we're going to do that same parenting thing before. I gave him a little nose. It's adorable. Okay. So this is the enemy cube, and this is the forward indicator. That's what we're going to call it. Just a little nub I have that indicates the forward direction, which is the blue axis again, Z. So we're going to start coding him now. So what we want him to do is we want him to move towards the player when we get close enough, and we want him to move back to the starting position if we're too far away. We also want him to stop if he gets too close, because if he keeps moving towards us, he will move inside of us, and then we'll fly into the air and everything will be broken. So we're going to do all this and more right now. But first, you know what? I just explained the logic to you. I'm not going to do a logic breakdown this time because it's pretty simple. You know, not as hard. We're not doing many scripts this time. We're doing like one to cover this entire enemy whatever thing. So we're going to call this look because might as well, right? So with look, we want to make a few variables, right? We want to make the variable, we'll go ahead and do private game object, and we want this, we'll just name it guy, right? This is going to be the player, okay? Actually, you know what, before we do any of this stuff, go back into the thing, rename the cube player, and rename, I guess you don't have to rename this, it won't really come up in the code ever, but I'm just going to rename it enemy, just for my own personal benefit. And we're going to avoid start right now, and we're going to go straight to await, that thing that I told you last time. Awake happens it's not given to you when you start the code, right? But it happens before start. So it's awake, start, and then update. So we want to in here do game object. Oops, wait. Guy, right? Guy equals game object dot find, and then parentheses, and we want to do quotation marks, and we want to find the object named player. And that means that from now on in the code, Guy is the player. We want to do private. No, we'll make this public actually. Public float. Move speed. We're gonna do that one again. There was one other thing. What was that one other thing? I'll probably get to it later. But anyway, we want move speed to be, let's say, 2. Right. So, what we want to do is we want to calculate the distance between the player and the object, the enemy, and then we want the enemy, when the player moves close enough, we want to move towards him, right? So, what we want to do first is we want to cover the distance function. This is a pretty cool little thing that Unity added to their code base, and they didn't just add it. It's been around for a while, but I am just going to go over this for you really fast. So, oh, that's what it was. It was distance, right? Okay, private. Come on, keyboard. That's totally on you. Vector 3, right? We want this variable to be a vector 3. Actually, we want to make this a little cleaner. Vector 3 equals, or no, not equals. We want to name it. What are we going to name this? We're going to name it distance, right? Or dist, whatever. Close enough. And dist, down here, we want it to be an update. I'll explain why in a second. Equals vector 3 dot distance, right? And in there, how this is going to work is we want to calculate this between two objects. We want the other object's position, right? So we want the player's position. So we want guy dot transform dot position, right? Because guy is a game object, and inside the game object there is the transform, and inside the transform there is a position. That's how that hierarchy works. So if we did like private transform guy, and then we set this to get the transform somehow instead of the game object, then we could just do guy.position. But since we made it a game object, because we kind of had to, since we made it a game object, we have to then access a transform inside the game object. It's a little, it's a little tedious sometimes to do, but, you get used to it, and it's not that bad. And then we want to get the transform.position of this object. Why did I do animation? And that's literally just transform.position. If you just do transform without anything before it, that's referring to the object that you are currently attaching the script to, which is the enemy. So that is it, actually. We're just going to do that. So what this vector3.distance does, it calculates the distance for you. This is a function that Unity has added to their codebase for us to use, right? We're going to go over a few more of these in a little bit. But basically this puts in Oops, I thought there was a space there. This puts in two positions, right? And it gets the distance between them. I forget how. I think it's not hard math, right? But it's also it saves space when you do it like this. So now that we have the distance, we want to go ahead. By the way, you could do this like quicker ways than this, but I am just doing it this way so that you guys can understand what's going on a little bit easier. So we want to get the distance, right? And if the distance is, say, less than, I don't know, how close do we want the player to be before he starts running at him? Let's say 12, right? If the distance is less than 12, really? Come on. Okay. If the distance is less than 12, then we want to look at the player and start moving towards him. So for that, we are going to look up another function called LookAt. If I can find the API. Thank you very much. All right. The API, by the way, is documentation for all of the functions and stuff like that inside of Unity, inside of the Unity code base. So you might want to look at that. I'll add a link in the description thingy. I'll also link to the Unity download and the scripting tutorial that I did last time. I probably should have said that sooner. Whatever. Okay, so how we're going to do the look at is we're going to do transform, right? Transform.look at, right? That's the function we want to use. For some reason they put it in transform. I'm not going to question them. They know better than I do. And then all we need to do after that is just select the target that we want to look at. So I'm just going to say we're going to look at the player, guy, right? That was pretty easy, right? Yes, it was, because it's a very easy thing to do. There we go. Pretty simple stuff. Now we're going to start moving to the player, okay? And this is like a little bit harder, but it's not that bad. Actually, it might even be like a little easier to understand than the last one. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not you, right? So we want to do, I think it's transform dot, no, it's not. I've been deceived. I have been deceived. Hold on. Oh, duh. Okay, I'm sorry. That's just my bad. So we're going to do transform.position, right? And we want it to equal vector3 dot MoveTowards, right? And this is essentially, we're going to be doing the same thing. It's the same type of logic for this that we're doing for the player movement, except that we want it to move by itself to a certain direction. So MoveTowards moves the object in a direction, but it doesn't point it at the thing that we're moving towards, which is why I did the look at up here, so that it is both looking at the player and moving towards the player. And so for the move towards, it says here that we need a vector3, right, which is our vector3, our position. Then we want the target position, and then we want, that's going to be the move speed, right? So we're just going to go ahead and put a transform dot position guy dot transform dot position, and then we're going to do move speed. I think that's it. I think that's it. Let's test it out. What is float? Oh, gotta add the F. Remember I was talking. Oh boy, what did I do? Vector 3. Oh, I did something wrong there. Okay, 1 second. Okay, we're back. I figured out what it was. I'm an idiot. Again. So this vector 3 up here, distance actually needs to be a float, not a vector 3. My bad. Oops. Also, we're just going to get rid of start here because we don't really need that at all. And then, well, we got another one. Look at has some invalid arguments. Oh yeah, that's right. So another problem that I did, another thing that I did wrong, is when you do LookAt, you need to get the transform, right? So you need to do LookAt guy.transform. Because for some reason it can't get the, well, not for some reason. It can't get the position from the game object, right? It has to go into that transform of the game object. And it doesn't do that unless you tell it to. It doesn't do that automatically. So we gotta do guy.transform, right? And that should be everything. Okay. So you'll see when I move... Oh. It's not working. I'm an idiot, guys. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about when I... Oh god, when I say I'm an idiot. I'm very absent-minded, okay? So something like adding the script to the enemy is kind of important. You need to actually give the script to the thing for it to react to you. Uh-oh. I gave it the wrong script. Oops. Remove component. Look. Oh my god. I feel so dumb right now. See? Look, it starts to move towards us. We did it, guys. We did it. That was pretty easy, right? Not that bad. Okay, now we're gonna add some functionality to this a little bit. A little bit, not a lot. Not a lot of it. We're not going too in-depth here. Oops. Gotta close this thing. So, what we're going to do is we're going to add it so that if we're too far away, we're going to make it try to move back to its normal position, right? So right now, how it is that if the distance is below 12, then it starts to move towards us, right? Else means that whenever the first one isn't true, whenever it's not below 12, right? That means that we're going to have the player look at the position where it started from and move back to that. So we need to add a private, and this time we actually do need this vector 3, and we're going to call it start position. We're just going to have all the private things in their own little group there. And we're going to have, when it's awake, we're going to have start position equal transform dot position. So what that does is that turns start position into where on awake, right? That's when the level starts. So that means that start position is equal to wherever this the enemy was when the level started. So we're just going to go ahead and do, we're going to do a look at, and we're just going to do this thing again, right? And we are going to change this guy.transform. We are going to change this to start position. And we're going to do the same thing here. And honestly, I think think we should be good. Let's see what happens when I take this away. I'm just gonna see. And we should probably make that lower then, to account for the increase in speed that will probably happen. We're just gonna check this out. Whoa! Okay, yeah, see? That's why there's a good reason to do time.delta time. Because it slows everything down a lot. And makes it move in a somewhat predictable manner. But for some reason, on player movement, I don't normally do it just because it makes it move too slow. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. Why it does that sometimes and other times. Like when you press a button, time.delta time makes it like super slow, right? And you have to like give it much higher numbers to account for that, which is fine. You know, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. But for some reason, when it's doing it by itself, unless you have time.delta time, it almost certainly will not work correctly. And I don't know why that is. I need to look into that. I'll give you an explanation next time. So what you saw before was that it came at us, right? And once it hit us, it kept going into us, and it went it basically merged with the player character model. So what we want to do is we want to make an else if. Well, first of all, I just want to show you this. Oops. I just want to show you this thing, like how it goes back to its starting position. See, look, and then it goes back, comes at us, and it goes back. You know, it's pretty cute. And we can go off the thing here because I don't have gravity set on. The player's basically just moving back and forth due to buttons, so there's no gravity or anything. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Okay, so that works perfectly. So what we want to do next is we want to do an else if, and then we want to do if distance is less than 2, right? And because we're doing this here, because we're doing this here, we need to change this one, right? Because distance is less than 2 is also inside of distance is less than 12. And if we put anything in this distance is less than 2, if we put anything in there while it's doing this, this will also be happening, right? So what we need to do is we need to do and, which is just what it sounds like. The two ampersands? Is that what they're called? I think that's an ampersand. The two ampersands, they create an and in the if function, right? So if distance is less than 12 and distance is greater than, right, or equal to 2. So if it's less than 12, greater than 2, and then down here we have if distance is less than 2, then we're just going to go ahead and do nothing, right? We're just going to have it look at the player. That's all we want it to do. We don't want it to move or anything, because it's close enough. We don't need it any closer. Like, seriously, man, some personal space would be nice. Okay, here we go. We're gonna look at this really fast. See? Get close. When he gets close enough, he just stops. But he still looks at us, which is the important part. You can see it better in the top, on the top screen. And we don't have any collision right now, so we can kind of go through him. If we had like a character controller right now, like a first-person character controller or third-person character controller, we wouldn't be able to move through him. So don't worry about that. That's kind of here nor there. Okay, and if we move far enough away from him, he just goes back to where he was. And that's pretty much it. That's it, guys. I mean, I was just going to do that last part at first, but honestly, I tacked on the player movement just because I thought it was kind of important, and I didn't see any tutorials for that when I was looking at it way back. So, I hope you had fun. Check out my last video if you haven't. It's a fun time. It's a good. Oh god, I'm really bad at promoting my own shit. Just go look at it, please. For me, I'll give you like a lollipop or something. Probably. I don't think I can legally say that. No, I can't. I'm not gonna give you a lollipop, but you should do it anyway. I'll stop talking now. I'll let you continue browsing the internet. Have fun with that, by the way. I'm rooting for you. Good job with this. I'm proud of you. We're gonna put it on the fridge. We're gonna put it on the fridge with the last one. Okay?